On my wife's birthday, I rushed home after the night shift, wanted to surprise her, but on the way, I was hit by Ethan, the new intern at the hospital, and broke my hand. When my wife arrived at the scene, all she did was comfort the terrified Ethan. I was shaking all over. I was shaking, begging her to help me. But she didn't care, she said coldly. "It's just a scratch. It won't kill you. What are you pretending for?" I wanted to call the emergency number, but my wife stepped on my cell phone and broke it. She said, "You're a doctor yourself. Don't waste public resources." My hand was not treated in time. I couldn't hold a scalpel anymore. Then my wife became terminally ill. I'm the only one in the country who can do this surgery. By the time the surgery was done, it was midnight. Today is my wife's birthday. I hurriedly packed my things and prepared to go home in order to see Sophia as soon as possible. I deliberately took a shortcut to drive home. The road was dark. No one was there. I didn't notice a car coming towards me. Suddenly, there was a bright light. I jerked the steering wheel to avoid it. There was a loud bang. My body jerked forward. The airbag popped out at once. It hit me hard in the chest. The window glass shattered into small pieces the moment it hit, all lodged into my right arm. I endured the pain, looked around. I realized that I had hit a utility pole on the side of the road. I yanked the twisted car door open as hard as I could with my left hand that could still move. I climbed out of the car in a state of disarray, was about to look for my cell phone to call 911. A man stepped out of the car across the street. I immediately recognized him as Ethan, an intern at our hospital. A ray of hope emerged in my heart. I quickly said to Ethan, "Call an ambulance for me." He slowly walked towards me. There was a barely discernible smile on his face. Dr. Michael, what's wrong with you? Why are you in such a mess?" I understood at once. He just did it on purpose. I was angry and confused. "Ethan, you know, it's illegal to intentionally hurt someone." Hearing my words, he showed a provocative smile. "There's no surveillance here. What can you do to me?" Finished speaking, he raised his foot and kicked away my cell phone. He also stepped hard on my injured right hand. My whole body trembled in pain. My voice was muffled. "I did it on purpose. You want to bet on it? See if Sister Sophia believes you or me. Sophia and I have been married for 5 years. We've always had a good relationship. We opened a private hospital together. But after Ethan came 2 months ago, things changed. She started to take special care of Ethan. It's more than a normal superior-subordinate relationship. My kind reminders were misinterpreted by her as being unreasonable. Ethan didn't seem to think that was enough. He dialed Sophia's number right in front of me. "Sister Sophia, I had a car accident. Now it's scary." He spoke in a voice of feigned pity, but the look in my eyes was full of amusement. "Sophia across the room is visibly panicking. Where is it? I'm coming to get you." A few minutes later, Sophia arrived. She didn't even look at me. She walked right past me. She looked at Ethan anxiously. She looked so worried. "I've never seen that before," she asked. "Ethan, are you okay?" Before I could respond, Ethan rushed in. I was driving. Michael suddenly rushed over. He crashed into my car. I got out of the car to check his safety. I didn't expect him to. I covered my injured hand. I stayed where I was. He even turned black and white upside down like this. Sophia glared at me fiercely, then gently said to Ethan, "Don't be afraid. Go on." Ethan looks aggrieved. "Looks like a victim," he says. "He tried to run me over." Sophia's words fall out and glared at me in anger. Before I could say anything, she decided that I was deliberately trying to hurt her. "Michael, why are you like this?" "He hit me on purpose," I answered honestly. I was scolded even more. "HMPH, you think I will believe you?" She walked up to me, looked down at me, said, "He's just an intern. How could he hit you on purpose?" She added, "From the day Ethan came into the hospital, you've been hostile to him. You've been giving him a lot of trouble, both in the open and in the dark." I opened my mouth. I couldn't say a word. My heart felt like it was stabbed by a knife. It hurts so much that I can hardly breathe. She'd rather believe that intern she's only known for a few months. She didn't want to believe me, the one who had been by her side all along. I used my last strength, picked up the cell phone that was kicked away. Just when I was about to connect to 911, Sophia suddenly grabbed the phone. Hanging up the phone, She said, "You are a doctor, just don't take up public resources. This is a small injury. It's not a problem." I kept shaking my head. "I'm in a cold sweat. My hand is injured. If I don't treat it quickly, I won't be able to hold a scalpel anymore." She glanced at the injury on my hand. Her face was full of disdain. "It's just a little blood. What's all the fuss about?" said. She turned around and gently picked up Ethan, who was only slightly bruised. "Ethan, hang in there. I will take you to the hospital. I'll take you to the hospital. I didn't lie to you. I'm really dying. I endure the pain," grabbed Sophia's pant leg, begging her to take me to the hospital. I put my last hope in her, but she coldly pushed me away, said, "Don't pretend. Aren't you tired?" She wiped the blood on her shoes in disgust. She got into the car without looking back. On the way out, she said, "So love to act, so lie here to act enough." The intense pain made me limp and weak all of a sudden, but when my vision gradually blurred, I clearly saw the smug smile on Ethan's face. I was lying on the ground. All I could hear in my ears was my own rapid and weak breathing, and the ear-piercing noise of the car as it drove away. I don't know how long I slept. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a nurse. She said, "Dr. Michael, you're finally awake." My mind was blank. I moved my hand unconsciously. I felt a sharp pain immediately. My hands were wrapped in thick gauze. It hurt so much that I was jerking in the air. The nurse hesitated, said, "Your hands." "It was when passers-by found you. You were already unconscious. Due to untimely resuscitation, the injuries were serious." I kept calm on the surface, but in my heart I understood how serious this kind of injury is to me as a surgeon. I picked up my cell phone, unconsciously opened the chat window with Sophia, but in the 3 days I was in a coma, she didn't even leave a single message. On the contrary, she appeared in Ethan's friend circle. I accidentally bruised my arm on our date last night. Sister Dean took care of me all night. In the photo, Sophia hugs Ethan tightly, worriedly looking at the injury on his arm. This scene, like a thorn in my heart. My nose was sore. Tears cannot stop flowing down. In the beginning, for Sophia, I gave up the opportunity to study abroad. I willingly stayed in her small hospital. I gave her everything I had, but in the end I got nothing. My career was over after the nurse left. I got up with difficulty, poured myself a glass of water. Before I could finish it, Ethan and Sophia pushed the door in. "Brother Michael, are you feeling better?" Ethan asked softly, and deliberately coughed a few times. I don't want to pay any attention to him. I don't want to care about him at all, seeing that I didn't react. Sophia behind her was obviously angry. "What kind of attitude is this?" She walked quickly to me, firmly made me put down my water glass, staring at me with a frown. "Ethan holds back his hurt. Been thinking about you for the past few days. Had to come and see you. You think you're a bit famous. You're looking down on the interns." Hearing these words, I feel helpless. I didn't do anything, but I've already been found guilty. Get out. I don't want to see you now, that's all. I'm going to go back to bed. Ethan looks like he wants everyone to know he's been wronged. "Sophia, don't say it. Brother Michael won't forgive me." Hearing this, Sophia stared at me for a few moments. Her eyes became colder and colder. She pulled Ethan behind her. With a helpless face, she said, "Michael, why do you have to do this? Why are you bothering with a trainee? It's because of me that he won't hold you responsible. Don't go too far." Her words made me feel powerless. "You trust him so much. We've been married for 5 years. It's not worth a few words from him." I saw a change in Sophia's face, but all it took was Ethan's pampering. "She's completely overwhelmed. Of course I believe him. Ethan is so honest. How could he hurt you?" She got angrier and angrier. She walked straight to me, wrapped in such thick gauze. "Who are you pretending to be?" Not waiting for me to respond, she directly pulled off the gauze on my hand. The wound is clearly visible. Blood is still flowing. Sophia froze, unable to speak. He asked, "What happened to your hand, Michael?" Ethan ran over, looked at me with an aggrieved face. "I know you don't like me, but you don't have to be so hard on yourself." Look at his righteous expression. I couldn't help but sneer. "I'm a doctor who does surgeries. How could I hurt my own hand?" Hearing this, Sophia also looked at him suspiciously. I subconsciously grabbed the bed sheet. Ethan's voice immediately became soft. "Sister Sophia, don't you believe me?" Seeing that look on his face, Sophia couldn't bear to continue to pursue. "I definitely believe you." Sophia's cold eyes completely broke my last hope. Before, we were a loving couple that everyone envied at the hospital. She was the young and successful dean. I was a highly skilled surgeon. We worked together, developed this small hospital into the city's top tertiary hospital. But then Ethan came along, completely disrupted our peaceful life. She started getting close to Ethan, often mentioned him in front of me. There were always problems at the hospital. She blamed me indiscriminately every time. Between Ethan and me, she chose Ethan decisively. She said, "Michael, you have too much heart. You've got too much heart. You're even capable of doing something as cruel as mutilating yourself to frame someone else." Starting today, Ethan is now an official employee of our hospital. He's a full-time employee of our hospital. I was shocked. I said to Sophia, "Are you crazy?" He sneered. Sophia looked at me coldly, smiling. "Don't you worry. There is a spot for the outstanding doctor this year. I'm going to let Ethan replace you." She went on to say, "You always suppress him. Isn't it because you're worried about him stealing your thunder? Your hand is like this now. You probably won't be able to operate in the future. Why don't you leave the opportunity to a newcomer?" After saying that, Sophia turned around and walked towards Ethan. Sophia turned to Ethan. Her eyes were full of favor. I looked at them. I felt like I was doused with cold water from head to toe. My whole body was cold. I was so angry that I was trembling, but I tried to calm myself down. "Sophia, don't you know Ethan's medical skills best? Since he was hospitalized, you know how many medical incidents he has caused." When Ethan heard that, his face immediately turned pale. "Michael, how can you accuse me like this? It's obvious that you always let me take the blame. You also said that I am an intern. I won't be punished." His eyes were red. He barely managed to squeeze out a few tears. Sophia painfully pulled Ethan over, carefully helped him wipe away his tears. "Michael, now that you've done it, you have to dare to bear it. Your hand is like this. No hospital would dare to admit you. You must apologize to Ethan. Otherwise, you can't continue to work in my hospital. I look at this person who has been with me for 5 years. There's nothing left in my heart. I will never apologize to him." "Good, Michael. Michael, sooner or later you'll come back crying and begging." On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I left my resignation and divorce papers. "Since we don't see eye to eye, let's go our separate ways." Leaving the hospital, I boarded a flight to London, this time out of the country. It's both for relaxation and also to meet my hairdresser. He runs a professional rehabilitation center abroad. It's very helpful in rehabilitating my hand. The plane just landed. My cell phone kept ringing. I picked up the phone. Sophia scolded me directly. "Where have you been? Don't you know the hospital is busy?" I sat on a lounge chair at the airport. Take a deep breath. Try to calm myself down. Her tone is still cold, with a commanding tone. "Sophia, the resignation report and divorce papers are in your office. We are done here." Sophia on the other end of the phone suddenly stopped talking. After a while, she smiled coldly. "There's a limit to what you can joke about. If you really make me angry, it will be impossible to end it." I sighed. Before I could say anything, Sophia raised her voice and said, "Within 2 days. You have to come back." She hung up the phone. I was helpless. There was no time to think. I rushed to the restaurant to meet my hairdresser in order to recover as soon as possible. I purposely asked him to help contact an internationally renowned expert to help me with hand rehabilitation. After finalizing the treatment plan, I started looking for a new job. Originally, I thought, with my education and experience, any hospital in the country would want me. But I didn't expect. All the resumes I put in were not heard from. I asked a friend I know to inquire. I found out that Sophia had put the word out in the industry. She wouldn't let any hospital hire me. There were more and more rejection letters in my mailbox. I felt very tired. After a day of rehab, I went to the park, wanted to relax. It was already dark. I vaguely saw a person lying in the grass. Taking a closer look, I immediately picked him up on my back and ran to the hospital, not caring that my hands hadn't fully recovered. Luckily, I got to the hospital in time. The old man was saved. I stayed at the hospital all night. I saw that he was out of danger. I was ready to leave. I just pushed open the ward door. I met a girl with a bad face. She looked at me, suddenly said happily, "You're the one who brought my grandfather to the hospital last night, right?" "Yes," I answered immediately. She also involuntarily grabbed my arm. "I have to thank you properly." While chatting, I learned that her name was Emily. I accidentally said something about myself. She let me work in her hospital without saying a word. "I trust you. You must be a good doctor." Before I could respond, she asked her assistant to bring me all the information about the hospital. I was too embarrassed to refuse. Plus, I had real difficulties myself. Going to work in her hospital became my best option. I agreed to the invitation without much thought. My hand was almost healed. I slowly got back to work. After returning to China, I joined Emily's hospital. Her hospital has strict management. The technology is also very advanced. It made me feel the fulfillment of being a doctor again. During this time, Sophia approached me privately several times, but I refused every time. It turns out, after Ethan's transition, Sophia's hospital situation became worse and worse. Ethan's medical skills are not good. There were several medical incidents, one after another. Patients complained. The hospital's reputation hit rock bottom. On the other hand, Emily's hospital has a good reputation because of its professional medical team and good service. The reputation is getting better and better. More and more patients came to see the doctor. One day after work, I ran into Sophia in the parking lot. It's been more than a month since we met. And she's obviously lost a lot of weight. She seemed to have lost a lot of weight and was not in good spirits. Sophia stared at me coldly. She asked, "Are you still angry with me, still helping my opponent against me?" I shook my head, tiredly. "Sophia, I resigned. Your hospital's problem, it's your business. It has nothing to do with me." Sophia's face sank. She raised her voice. "Michael, we used to love each other so much. Can't you help me once more? After you sign the divorce papers, our lives are completely separated. You can ask anyone for help, but leave me alone." Before she could react, I drove off. I thought life would always be so peaceful. I didn't expect the unexpected to come so quickly. In the past few days, I noticed that my coworkers were looking at me a bit wrong. I didn't care until a colleague who is on good terms with me whispered to me, "There are a lot of negative posts about me on the internet. The influence is very bad." I, out of curiosity, immediately went online to check those so-called breaking news. Medical skills cannot accept money to do things, rely on relationships to promote bullying colleagues. A large number of charges are put on me. The internet is full of voices cursing me, these so-called black materials. I know it all too well. Ethan is trying to get back at me. Made up lies to stir up everyone's emotions. I had no choice. I had to go to Sophia with the evidence. "Michael, did you promise to come back and help me?" Sophia came over and grabbed my hand with a happy face. I shrugged off her hand, throwing the information on the table. "Ethan from your hospital spread rumors on the internet to discredit me. If you don't give me a reasonable plan to deal with it, I will take the legal route." Seeing my serious attitude, Sophia immediately called someone to shout Ethan over. "Brother Michael, I really didn't do this, but I have prepared all the evidence. There are video transfer records of Ethan receiving red packets from patients, and the surveillance video of him hitting me." Sophia saw the evidence I took out. Her face immediately changed. "Michael, I'm not sure about any of this." She softened her tone. "Here's the deal. I'll leave Ethan with you. You can do whatever you want with him." She looks at me. There was a plea in her eyes. When I didn't react, she took my arm again. Tears were welling up in her eyes. "Don't blame me. I was cheated by him." She kept apologizing to me, hoping I could forgive her, but my heart was very calm. It's over. There was no more room for redemption. I didn't hesitate to send Ethan to jail. At the same time, Sophia's hospital was reported by many patients' families. It's about to close down. One day after work, Sophia stopped me in front of the hospital. She cried and asked me to give an explanation. "Michael, you really refuse to forgive me. I don't want to talk about it." I turned around to leave. "I'm sorry, Michael." She grabbed my hand tightly. Her eyes were full of pleading. "Can't we start over?" I looked at her tired face. I felt a coldness in my heart. "Sophia, you came to me now, isn't it already too late?" Her eyes were a bit flustered, but still insisted on persuading me. "I admit I wronged you before, but we built this hospital together. You can't watch it collapse." I smiled coldly. "The hospital was destroyed by you and Ethan. I had nothing to do with it. You think I'm going to forgive you just because you apologize? I gave everything for her before, but all I got in return was Ethan's provocations over and over again, and her indulgence over and over again. I believed in her over and over again, and she repeatedly hurt my pride. At this point, I won't turn back either." Seeing me so determined, Sophia completely broke down. She said, "No, I won't. You still love me, right?" "Mtkes Sophia, you're stalking my boyfriend in front of all these people. That's not very nice." I turned my head. I realized it was Emily. She asked, "Your boyfriend?" Sophia looked at me. There's a hint of resentment in her eyes. Emily naturally took my arm. Smiling sweetly at me. "Is there a problem?" Looking at her smile, I can't help but smile too. "Michael, is this true?" Sophia frowned. The tone of her voice became hard. "You said you would love me forever. Now this is what you said." Mtkes Sophia. Emily didn't wait for her to finish. She interrupted her. She held me back, said with a serious look, "You have to understand. You are the one who destroyed this relationship first. You don't have the right to ask him to make a moral choice with those words. These days, Sophia has been around me a lot. She's been sending me messages, calling, and ran to me at the hospital, begging me for forgiveness. I thought she'd give up when she hit the nail. I didn't expect her to be more aggressive instead." The hospital's bulletin board just posted a photo of Emily and me. It was deliberately defaced. There are all kinds of rumors on the internet saying that Emily is the third party. I checked with the hospital security office. It turned out to be Sophia's doing. In order to make things clear, I purposely asked her to come out to meet me. As soon as she saw me, she immediately grabbed my hand. She asked excitedly, "Michael, have you changed your mind?" Her eyes were full of expectation. I felt a sense of revulsion. I immediately shook off her hand without hesitation. She suddenly froze, at a loss for words. She looked at me. "What happened at the hospital?" "I know it was you. I want you to know. It's not possible between us. I don't believe you." Sophia shouts in agitation, her hands clenched into fists. "It's just a misunderstanding that we got into this mess. I don't believe that you don't have any feelings for me at all." Her tone becomes softer, holds my hand gently. "What is Emily better than me? You're with her. Won't you feel aggrieved? You're only with her to piss me off. Just say the word. I'll be right back with you." After hearing this, I was furious, but still tried to control my emotions. I said, "Sophia, don't turn black and white upside down again. Emily is right. You betrayed me. I chose to be with her. I chose to be with her because I really liked her, not to get back at you." Sophia's body is shaking gently. Tears were rolling in her eyes. Emily arrived at the restaurant on time. This time, I took the initiative to hold her hand. "I truly like Emily. You don't do those useless things anymore." "You can't. I can't. I haven't finished my sentence yet." Sophia grabbed my hand. "You're mine. I won't let anyone take you away from me." In the restaurant, Sophia suddenly yelled loudly, completely ignoring the surrounding guests. Immediately afterward, she seemed to have lost control. She directly rushed towards Emily. Glasses broke. The area around the seat became a mess. I rushed forward to pull the two apart, found that their arms were both cut by the glass shards. Seeing the wound on Emily's hand, I immediately wanted to take her to the hospital, but just turned around. Sophia jumped ahead of me and blocked me. She looked at me, tears falling down. "I'm hurt too. Can't you see that?" She shook off Emily's hand angrily. "Why do you have to take her to the hospital yourself? What's so great about her? You've got to stop it." I stood in front of Emily. "You're the one who got her hurt, and she's the one who got hurt the most." Maybe she realized she was wrong. She couldn't look me in the eye. She had tears in her eyes. She took my hand gently. "I'm sorry. It's my fault. I apologize to you. Please forgive me." "No need." I broke away from her hand. "Let's not meet again." A few days later, I'm going to attend a lecture by an expert. I just drove out of the neighborhood. Suddenly, a car stopped me. After a while, Sophia got out of the car, and she's dragging Ethan, who's tied up by his hands and feet. "You crazy bastard. What are you doing?" Ethan looked weak, but he's still yelling as hard as he can. He's trying to stay calm, but his trembling legs betrayed his inner fear. "I am what I am because of you. You're alive and well. Michael will never forgive me." She rushed at Ethan, with a fierce look on her face. He turned his head to look at me. He turned to me, and there was a gentle look on his face again. "Michael, I understand you didn't forgive me before. It's because I didn't do enough." Her eyes slowly became fierce. "But don't worry, I'm sure I can make you forgive me this time." "What are you doing?" I shouted anxiously, but Sophia completely ignored me. Straight away she kicked Ethan into the middle of the road. After a while, Sophia started the car. "Ah, help me. What are you doing? What are you doing?" Ethan was lying on the ground. His face was red. His body was writhing, but his feet were tied up so he couldn't move. I wanted to save him, but the blinding headlights kept me immobile. By the time I came back to my senses, Ethan was in a pool of blood. There was screaming all around. Seeing this scene, Sophia laughed and got out of the car. She rushed to my side. "Michael, now you can forgive me." She grabbed my hand tightly. Her face was full of excitement, but now I was afraid of her. I couldn't imagine someone I once loved so much could become so crazy. I didn't think twice. Directly pushed Sophia away, with the assistance of the security guards. With the help of the security guards, we sent Ethan to the hospital. Despite the doctor's efforts, his leg was not saved. His leg could not be saved. Seeing this situation, I didn't feel happy. The police came. They simply recorded the situation and started looking for Sophia. Then they started looking for Sophia. I, on the other hand, I forgot all about it, but who knows, it wasn't over yet. That day, I was going home from work. I walked for a while. I always felt that someone was following me. At first I didn't care, but when I walked into an empty corridor, I suddenly realized there was a strange man behind me. He was staring at me closely. A silver light flashed faintly from his sleeve. I was so scared that I broke out in a cold sweat. I felt that the situation was not good, immediately turned around and ran. Sure enough, the people behind were in hot pursuit. The distance is getting closer and closer. The shelf next to it collapsed. The glass bottle fell down. The potion spilled all over the floor. And then, there were screams all around. The hospital was in chaos. The man rushed straight to me, raising his knife. He was about to stab me. I instinctively blocked my body with my arm, trying to avoid his attack. I was not careful. The blade brushed by. Luckily, it only scratched my clothes. I used my whole body strength, fought to push him away. He was knocked back a few steps by me, almost fell down, but quickly stabilized himself. He raised his knife again and stabbed at me. I could only dodge at the same time, while looking for a chance to counterattack. Just as I was confronting him, suddenly, there was a muffled sound. The strange man fell to the ground. Dozens of security guards immediately rushed up to hold him down. I looked up, found Emily holding a long Roman IV tube in her hand, standing there in a daze. But she quickly came back to her senses, asked, "Are you okay?" She ran towards me, frowning when she saw my wounds. I gasped for breath, nodded my head and said, "It's okay." After the police treated the wound, quickly arrived and arrested Ethan. Before I could react, Ethan yelled at me, "Michael, it's all your fault. You have to pay for my leg." When I saw the look on his face, I realized what was going on. You are in this situation today. It's all your own fault. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Looking at his unrepentant face, I was furious. He was arrested by the police. I was relieved. Later, Ethan and Sophia were both sentenced. Sophia had a fight with someone in prison. She suffered a heart injury. I'm the only one in the country who can do it. The prison called, asked me to operate on her. I shook my head, said, "I can't do this kind of difficult surgery with my hands anymore. She brought this on herself. I can't help." Sophia said she wanted to see me one last time before she died. I refused coldly. Until he passed away, I never went to see him. Let bygones be bygones. I'm ready to start a new life.